Basically, this is what has happened. Sophie Cunningham's sister tweeted out, maybe you should focus less on finding players for commenting on poor officiating, yada yada. And then somebody responded with protect athletes, shut up B word at her sister. When Sophie Cunningham took out JC Sheldon. Reality is, the referees dealt with it. Like, that's not, the complaint isn't that these things aren't happening. The complaints are that the referees are not dealing with it.
When Sophie Cunningham posted that video with the caption F around and find out, she wasn't just responding to critics, she was declaring war on everyone who thought they could come for her family without consequences. What happened next would turn a regular WNBA player into the league's most talked about villain, and the numbers prove it worked better than anyone expected. The whole explosion started during what should have been a routine game between the Indiana Fever and Connecticut Sun. Late in the fourth quarter, with the game already decided, JC Sheldon tried to get a fast break layup. Sophie Cunningham had other plans. She wrapped up Sheldon hard, taking her to the ground in what referees immediately called a flagrant 2 foul. The whistle blew, Sophie got ejected, and everyone thought that was the end of it. They were dead wrong.
And Sophie Cunningham, she's not afraid to call a spade a spade. She's not afraid to call it like it is. She's taken this opportunity with the Indiana Fever and has run with it. When it comes to on the court, she's performing. She's sticking up for her team. When it comes to off the court, she's getting the deals. She's getting the endorsements. She's got the podcast. And you better watch out, Twitter folks, because if you say something about Sophie's La Familia, oh, she's coming for you and coming for you.
What made this different wasn't just the foul itself. Players commit flagrant fouls all the time in the WNBA. What made this explode was the context everyone was ignoring. Throughout that entire game, Sophie watched as Caitlin Clark got hit, grabbed, and targeted by Connecticut players while the referees seemed to look the other way. Marina Mabre had been throwing elbows. Players were getting physical with Clark beyond normal basketball contact, and Sophie, playing the role of team enforcer, decided enough was enough. The aftermath on social media was immediate and brutal. Clips of the foul spread across Twitter faster than wildfire, with thousands of people calling Sophie dirty, dangerous, and everything else they could think of. The hate comments poured in by the hundreds. People were saying she didn't belong in the league, that she was a goon masquerading as a basketball player. But the haters made one critical mistake. They decided to come for Sophie's family.
We have Lizzie Cunningham. I believe this is Sister C. Shout out to you, Sister C. WNBA, maybe you should focus less on finding players for commenting on your poor officiating and more about hiring officials that are able to call a consistent game and protect your athletes. Pathetic. Praying for you. Then we have Twitter Troll 101 say, quote, protect athletes, talking to Sophie Cunningham's sister, calls her the B word and tells her to shut up. And you had to know Sophie Cunningham is not going to let this slide. Sophie Cunningham is not going to let this slide and not let it slide as she did. She said, some of us were raised by the words of don't bite off more than you can chew, and some of us didn't. Quote, F around and find out, with a video of her throwing JC Sheldon.
Sophie's sister Lizzie stepped up to defend her, tweeting that maybe the WNBA should focus less on finding players for commenting on poor officiating and more on hiring officials who could actually protect athletes and call a consistent game. It was a reasonable take that a lot of players probably agreed with privately, but one troll couldn't leave it alone. They quoted Lizzie's tweet, told her to shut up, called her the B word, and said she should focus on protecting athletes instead of running her mouth. That was the moment everything changed. Sophie Cunningham might let people attack her basketball skills or call her dirty, but coming for her sister crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. Her response was swift and absolutely savage. She posted a video of the exact foul everyone was crying about, with the caption, some of us were raised with the words, don't bite off more than you can chew, and some of us didn't. Fuck around and find out. The message was crystal clear. You want to test me? Here's what happens. But Sophie didn't stop there. She followed up with more posts calling out the hypocrisy she was seeing. While everyone was screaming about her flagrant foul, she pointed out that Bria Hartley had yanked Angel Reese down by her hair in a previous game and barely got a slap on the wrist. Marina Mabrey had been throwing dangerous plays all season without getting ejected. Yet Sophie commits one flagrant foul in retaliation and suddenly she's public enemy number one. The double standard was obvious to anyone paying attention. The WNBA tried to control the narrative by hitting Sophie with fines. First came the standard fine for the flagrant foul, then another $500 fine when she posted a TikTok using Sabrina Carpenter lyrics to call the referees stupid, slow, and useless. The league thought they could silence her with their wallet punishments. Instead, they just gave her more content to work with and proved her point about inconsistent treatment. What happened next shocked everyone, including probably Sophie herself. Her social media following absolutely exploded. In the weeks after the controversy, she gained nearly 1 million new followers across TikTok and Instagram. Her engagement rates went through the roof. Suddenly, everyone wanted to know what Sophie Cunningham was going to say or do next. She had transformed from a role player into the WNBA's main character overnight.
And Sophie Cunningham even blows her the nice kiss emoji. Oh, shout out to Sophie Cunningham, man. Shout out to Sophie Cunningham. And then we have from her.
You're dumb as shit.
Yeah.
You're literally dumb as fuck. You're dumb as shit.
Yeah.
You're literally dumb as fuck.
The numbers tell the real story here. Before the incident, Sophie was ranking somewhere in the 50s among WNBA players by pure basketball metrics. She wasn't dropping 30 points a game or leading any major statistical categories. But by marketability and fan discussion, she shot straight into the top 10. People love to hate her, and that hatred translates into engagement, followers, and ultimately money. She turned controversy into currency. This whole situation perfectly captures Sophie's role within the Fever organization. She's not their best player, but she might be their most important. With Caitlin Clark drawing unprecedented attention and bringing millions of new eyeballs to women's basketball, every team is looking for ways to test her limits and throw her off her game. Sophie serves as Clark's unofficial bodyguard, the enforcer who sends a message that anyone who wants to target their superstar will have to answer to her.
There's an entire thread of Bria Hartley committing dirty plays, and Bria Hartley has not been chucked out for most of them. For the majority of the dirty stuff Bria Hartley's done, she's not been chucked out. Sophie Cunningham rightfully got chucked for this. She got chucked for this. Anytime Sophie Cunningham does something that is technical foul worthy, she gets a technical foul. That is the referees doing their job. The referees doing their job is not preventing anything happening. The referees doing their job is making sure they call the right things and that they stop any complete escalation. The only thing the referees did wrong was allow Marina Mabrey to stay on the floor. JC Sheldon should have been, the reality is that JC Sheldon and Marina Mabrey, JC Sheldon should have been given a flagrant foul, and Marina Mabrey should have been ejected.
The genius of Sophie's approach is that she doesn't pretend to be something she's not. She's not trying to be the perfectly polished, media-trained athlete that the WNBA typically promotes. She's loud, she's brash, and she's completely unbothered about whether people like her or not. In a league full of players walking on eggshells, Sophie stomps through the room and owns every step. That authenticity resonates with fans who are tired of robotic press conferences and sanitized social media posts. From a pure business perspective, Sophie's controversy was the best thing that could have happened to her career. She'll sell more jerseys, get more interview requests, and keep her name trending longer than most all-stars. In today's sports culture, being the main character is often more valuable than being the most skilled player. Sophie understood that better than anyone and played it perfectly. The WNBA finds itself in a fascinating position because of players like Sophie. On one hand, the league desperately wants to be seen as professional, polished, and mainstream ready. On the other hand, they need personalities and storylines to keep casual fans engaged. Sophie hands them both a problem and a solution wrapped in the same package. She's the chaos agent they don't officially want, but absolutely need for ratings and discussion. What makes this entire saga even more interesting is the timing. The WNBA is experiencing its biggest boom in popularity ever, largely thanks to Caitlin Clark bringing mainstream attention to women's basketball. Every little moment gets magnified now. Every foul, every stare down, every social media post becomes a potential headline. Players who used to operate in relative anonymity are suddenly finding themselves as front-page stories, and not everyone knows how to handle that spotlight. Sophie's response to all this attention reveals something important about the future of women's sports. Fans are hungry for real personalities, real emotions, and real conflicts. They don't want sanitized corporate speak and fake smiles. They want players who feel authentic, even if that authenticity comes with sharp edges. Sophie delivers that in spades, and the massive growth in her following proves there's a huge market for it. The polarizing nature of Sophie's brand is actually its greatest strength. In sports, being loved by everyone usually means you're forgettable. Being hated by half the audience while the other half absolutely adores you means you're unforgettable. Every WNBA fan has an opinion about Sophie Cunningham now, and having an opinion means being invested in what happens next. Looking at the bigger picture, Sophie's social media explosion exposes a fundamental tension in professional sports today. Athletes are expected to be accessible, authentic, and engaging on social media, but they're also expected to never say anything controversial or offensive. It's an impossible balance, and Sophie decided to just pick a side. She chose authenticity over safety, controversy over consensus, and it's paying off in ways that safe players can only dream about. The aftermath continues to ripple through the league months later. Other players are watching Sophie's success and wondering if they should be more outspoken. Fans are paying closer attention to every interaction, looking for the next moment that might spark similar drama. The WNBA front office is trying to figure out how to harness this energy without losing control of their carefully crafted image. What Sophie Cunningham proved is that in the modern sports landscape, talent alone isn't enough to build a lasting career. You need a brand, you need a story, and you need people to care about what you do next. By refusing to back down from critics and standing up for herself and her family, she created all three. Whether you love her or hate her, you're probably going to be watching her next game to see what happens. The real question isn't whether Sophie's approach was right or wrong. The real question is whether the WNBA is ready for more players to follow her lead. Because once you prove that controversy can translate into followers, endorsements, and career longevity, other athletes are going to take notice. Sophie Cunningham might have just written the blueprint for how to turn criticism into cash and hate into fame. In the end, Sophie's clapback wasn't just about defending herself or her sister, it was about refusing to let other people define her story. She took control of the narrative, owned her villain role, and turned it into the most valuable thing an athlete can have in today's world: relevance. And that's a lesson that goes way beyond basketball.